Hey everyone, welcome to a new episode of my tutorial park. Now in the last episode I built this river rapids ride, really happy with how it turned out. And in today's episode I want to build a wooden coaster. Now the wooden coaster that I'm going to build will be a pretty simple design. It will be an out and back roller coaster as it's called. So yeah, from the station it will just head into a direction, and then after that it will just simply head back from there, back to the station. So I was thinking kind of like an L shape, so station somewhere over here, and then just travel along here. And somewhere over here there will be a turnaround. Now you could also go for other coaster designs. There's also ones that are more twisty, curvy. They're made by the real-life manufacturer GCI, usually. But for now we're going to do a more simple design. Now, before I start building anything, I think it will also be fun in this park to name Handymen after commenters. So I've picked 2 people who commented on the last video, and they can be a handyman in this park. So if you also want to be a handyman in this park, just leave some fun and interesting comments on this video. Alright, here you can see the names of the handymen that I've added to the park. Yeah, like I said, just keep those fun and interesting comments coming. Alright, for the wooden coaster, I will just build the station somewhere over here. Now, before I actually start building any track, I do want to expand this path over here in this direction somewhat, because I don't want to be in the situation where after building the station I have trouble extending the path further. Basically, yeah, I don't want to have a dead end here. So first I'll focus on the path. So I'll just clear out some scenery here and extend the path a little bit further. Okay, building yourself into a corner is really something that you'll want to prevent. I'm just going to lower the land here a little bit, make it a bit flat, and that'll make it easier for me to build a station here. Now when placing a station, something which is probably also good to take into account is where you're going to place your queue. For the station, I think I want to have the lift hill pretty high up. So I will build my station in this direction. And that will allow me to just make a little curve. And then we can start the lift hill somewhere over here. Now I'm going to make the station... let me first turn off this cheat, allow building track at invalid heights. So I'm going to make the station 2 units high up. I always like to build my coasters a little bit off the ground, and for wooden coasters that's especially important, as it will assist you in making footers later. Alright, from here just going to make the lift hill up. Now here I want to go around these go-karts, and then also go around the river rapids here. So let's see how far or how high we want to go up. I think this will be a good height. And I'll start with a curve. Now at the beginning of the curve the coaster is still really slow. So it's not really necessary to bank this first downward curve. So I think I'm going to go up 1 higher and start over here. That will give me some more space around the track to make supports. So here we've done our curve, and now I'm just going to make a steep drop downwards. Now usually you'll have to play a bit with the height. Maybe I'll do one piece of less steep track here. Alright, so what you can see me do here is basically I want the track to be above the ground a little bit, but also I want to smoothen out this first drop a little bit. So you could, for example, from the steep track just immediately go horizontal like this, and then go up like this. But I don't think that really makes your hills look nice. If you smoothen them out a little bit, your track will look less triangular, and I think it makes the track look nicer. So just going to smoothen it out like this. Now, like I said, I always like to have my track off the ground a little bit. So I will just lower the floor here a bit. Now also don't be afraid to use 1 or 2 straight pieces here at the bottom of the drop. It will make the hills look a bit smoother. So I like doing that. Now let's see, we're 67.5 meters up here. I think I'll just go straight to horizontal here. This is probably enough height differences for the train to make it over here, but it's always good to have a little bit of margin. Alright, let's go down here again. Now, especially at the bottom, it's probably a good idea to smoothen out the hills a bit, especially since at the bottom the speed of the trains is higher, so the forces are higher. At the top, I think you can go a little bit steeper if you want. Now, I did smoothen it out here a little bit with the horizontal piece, just because I like it. So, yeah, I will just continue making a few hills, and we'll go along these river rapids. Actually, maybe I'll make a little curve in here. I think that will that might look pretty nice. Now, also when making hills, don't be afraid to put in some lower hills. Wooden coasters, yeah, they generally need some airtime for guests to actually find them exciting, at least for real wooden coasters. So having some lower hills really helps with that. It ejects the guests out of their seats while they're still being held in by the restraints, of course, usually at least. And yeah, that generally make for a nicer experience. At least when I ride a wooden coaster, I love to have some airtime on them. Some elements which you will often also see on wooden coasters is a double down or a double up. Basically, instead of just going down in one go, you go down in with two downward elements. And again, usually there's some sort of hill in the middle that also takes the guests out of their seats. So there you have some more airtime. Okay, here I'm going to make a little turnaround. Now, what you will usually see with the wooden coasters, either the turnaround will be on a... Yeah, usually will be raised, because if the turnaround is at the low point, well, a wooden coaster will go through that spiral pretty quickly. Yeah, you may see it on some coasters, but yeah, if you have a big spiral made of wood, it will often get quite bumpy if coaster trains run over it all the time. Yeah, I tend to make my turnarounds yeah, usually at a higher point in the track. Now, something which I do like to do on wooden coasters for turnarounds is basically just start them pretty high up and then just curve them down like this. I think a turnaround like this usually looks pretty nice. Now I'm just going to get the track right next to itself again. Well, at least I'm going to attempt that. And doing that allows the coaster track to share supports with itself. And also, if you want to do footers later on the coaster, this will also yeah, help greatly with that. It will basically it means you will only have to do half the work you normally would if these tracks were separated from each other. Now, of course, you don't have to do footers on a coaster, but it's something we will get to later in this episode. But it does make your wooden coaster look so much nicer. So I think it's definitely worth doing. Alright, while we're building the coaster, we can actually already test it. Now, let's see. I have the cheat on for disable vehicle limits. I'll turn that off. Now, for out and back wooden coaster with not too many twisty elements, typically, I think these 6-seater... Oh wait, it's the wrong ones. Let's turn turn this sheet off for show vehicles from other track types. So let's see, we have the articulated wooden coaster trains. Now these trains you will typically see on coasters with a lot of twisting track. So if you have helixes or like you're trying to emulate a GCI kind of wooden coaster, then typically you will see this kind of coaster vehicle. For out and back designs I typically use either the 6-seaters or the wooden roller coaster trains, so the standard 4-seater ones. I think here I will just go with the 6-seater trains. So let's continue building, and we hit the blue flag, and then a coaster should roll down out of the station. I'm just going to speed it up a little bit so we can so it goes up the lift hill a bit faster. We can actually also follow it using this. So let's just see how it does speed wise. So here's the little airtime hill. Here's a little 90-degree curve. Looks like it still has a decent amount of speed here. Not too fast, also not too slow. So, well, we went out quite a long distance. So it may actually be tricky to get the coaster back to the station. But we'll see how we do. Actually, I think we can extend this by a little bit. Let's see if we can get these tracks to meet up again. No, looks a little bit tricky. Alright, doing this just allowed me to make the hill a little bit higher. And that will give the coaster some more speed at near the end of the track. And that should make it a little bit easier for us to actually get this coaster back to the station. Alright, I just finished the track. I tried to put the coaster track alongside the rest of the track for as much of the ride as possible. So basically everywhere. Yeah, I think this altogether looks pretty cool. I will quickly change the colors to something more, something which I more typically use. I like to use the same 3 colors for the track. This is a track combination that usually works pretty well. You could even go darker. This brown is a little bit more saturated. I think I'll just go with the light brown. Alright, yeah, just put the track right next to the other track. Here you can see another double down. Just try to incorporate a little bit of airtime hills here and there. Also a double up over here. Yeah, just try to make the track layout interesting. Now, you shouldn't overdo it with the amount of drops, because after a certain point, the drops only add intensity to the ride. And then if you have too many drops, yeah, the ride will become too intense for the guests. So that might be something to be careful with. Alright, well, there's a lot we could do next. What I think I will do first is just make a simple station for the coaster. Just so, yeah, we can actually let the guests use it. Now, I will just make a simple station over here. I'm not going to make it too fancy, since this is not a station tutorial, but a wooden roller coaster tutorial. So yeah, let's quickly do that. Now, I'm just going to rotate the entrance. You can just do that with the time inspector by selecting it and then just rotating it. What you'll have to be aware of is that if you change the roller coaster track layout at some point, rotated entrances and exits will disappear. So then you will have to rebuild those. Alright, the coaster now has a simple station, just a 2-story building, made a little roof on it. Tried to give the roof an interesting shape. I think that worked out. So, yeah, I'll just keep the entrance and exit huts. Now, something which we probably also need is some form of transfer track. Most real coasters also have that. So I'm just going to copy some of these brake pieces. Not going to copy the block brakes, but some of these other brake pieces. And I'll just put them right here. Actually, I'm going to do it a little bit differently. I'll just make this look like some sort of sliding track. So the coaster would brake here, and then the coaster could stop here. Then maybe this track could slide to the left or the right, and then over here we could make a track to store extra vehicles. Now, to make a transfer track, I like to use the hybrid coaster track. So what I will do is I will just put some of this track right under the coaster track here. You can have some more. You could also use other tracks like monorail or a single rail coaster track. But yeah, I always like to use this one. You should just do whichever one you prefer to use. But this usually looks pretty nice. So something else we should probably do is remove the supports under this track. So now it kind of looks like this track here could slide to the left or the right. And if the train is on here, then it slides with this track to here, and then the train could be parked here. Now there's many more different ways you could do a transfer track, but this is just one of them. Now I'm going to make a little building over here, which this coaster also travels through, and then over here is the place where a train could be stored. Alright, I think that looks pretty cool. Pretty simple, but effective, I think. Now, something which you often see me do, by the way, is for entrances into the building, like over here. This wall now looks really thin. Well, here it's less obvious since there's also an entrance here. But what I like to do is just put a little pole there. And that will make it, yeah, that will usually make your entrances and exits into buildings look a little bit nicer, a little bit sturdier. You can see I also did that over here, for example, and over here. Just a little trick that I like to use to make my buildings look a little bit more sturdy. Alright, next up, what we want to do is add some support to the coaster. Now, I'll keep it simple here. I'll just go into the wall section here and look for support. And yeah, this support piece is your biggest friend for when you're making a wooden coaster. Now, for the lift hill, the supports are typically very easy to do. Again, you can do this however you like. I typically just follow the track slope a bit and just add some of these support pieces right here. And since we have some track right next to here, we can just I'll just make them a little bit higher, and I'll just make them follow this gradient. Now, I'm not going to add even more to here. I think 2 wide is enough. Also didn't do it for the entire length of the coaster, since there's also a building here in the way. But yeah, typically I think these supports are usually only necessary for the higher parts anyway. But yeah, I'm also going to do a little bit of it on this side. Now I'll also do a little bit of it for this first drop, the curved drop. I'll just place a few of these along the track here. I'll try to do it in a nice way. Now, I don't really have any rules to use for this. Usually I just play around and see what looks nice. Now I'm also going to do some supports for the higher parts here. I think I'll do a few of these supports along the curve here, and a few right next to this bigger hill here. Alright, sometimes it doesn't really work out nicely, for example here in this corner. And something which will usually look nice here is a triangular support. And you can actually make triangular supports, and you get those. For example, here we have a transition from horizontal or straight track to diagonal. So yeah, here's the curve piece. So here we are still going straight, and then if we take this track piece over here and we copy it, then we actually only copy the support. And that can be really useful sometimes. So just to clarify, here we have a piece of straight track, and then we go diagonal, and then just copy and paste this track piece, and then you get a triangular support. It also works, for example, for the miniature railway or other ride types which have these wooden kind of supports. So I'll take this track piece here and I'll paste it here. Now it's invisible now, so I'll make it a bit higher. And let's rotate it. I think that actually looks perfect here. Now you can go even more complicated with the supports if you want. For example, you could put some pieces like this, and then with these wooden post fences, you could make even more complicated structures or triangles or whatever you want. But I think that's a little bit too much for this episode. So I'm just going to delete this, and we're going to keep the supports simple. But yeah, a lot more is possible with these wooden post fences and other support structures. Actually, maybe we can fit another triangular piece here, just to finish it off a bit here. Alright, I don't think I'm going to do any more custom supports. What I want to move on to now is footers. Now, before I do any footers, I'm going to make the floor below the coaster as flat as possible. And yeah, the more flat the ground is under the coaster, the easier it will be for you to do footers. So let's see, support start over here. Yeah, I'm just going to go all throughout the coaster layout and just going to flatten the ground under it. Alright, I tried to flatten out the ground under the coaster as much as possible. Now, I didn't flatten it out completely. I still want to have a little bit of elevation in the landscape, but the more flat it is, the more easier it will be for you to do the footers. Now, for the footers, basically they're the piece of concrete which the coaster track rests on. Now, the first thing I'm going to do the footers for is these supports, as this is one of the easiest parts to do. So I will take this wooden post fence and I'll raise it off the ground by one. We'll make a square like this. Then I'll just go to all and we'll find the prison. And we're looking for the prison wall corner. And you can just lower it into the ground like this if you hold shift. You may need to disable clearance checks, and maybe also support limits. And we'll just make a little structure like this. Now it looks a little bit glitchy now, but when we place it under here, it will no longer be glitchy. So I'll take the Scenery Manager plugin and I'll only select small scenery. So these, I believe these footers or these prison wall corners are small scenery, and I'll only select wall. Place mode will be raw, not really sure if that's necessary, and I'll just select. We'll select this tile, we press copy, and now we can copy and paste this. And I'll just paste it under all these supports here. Now I'm only pasting it under the supports that you can actually see. Not doing it for the inner supports. Now this method, these supports, you don't want to do them in spots where the coaster train actually travels over, because every time it travels over it, it will make these supports look glitchy. So you definitely don't want to bury these supports into the ground on tiles where the coaster train travels over. Alright, now these spots or these parts are done. I think I'll need to have some supports over here as well. But what I just showed you with the flatland, well, basically it just allows you to copy and paste these kind of supports on these tiles. Now where the land is not flat, you'll have to do this manually, so that takes a lot more time. So I'm just going to copy and paste a little bit more, and then I'll get back to you. Alright, now we'll also want to do supports for the rest of the track. Now, like I just explained, if a coaster travels over over a tile where these supports are buried underground, they will be glitchy when the coaster car travels over them. So for the tiles where the coaster car actually travels over them, we'll place the footers on the outside, like so. And then when we've placed them with the tile inspector, we'll have to move these. We'll have to move these prison wall corners above surface, and then they will no longer be glitchy. So we'll have to do this for the rest of the track. Now this will only this specific arrangement will only work for straight track pieces. Now as you can see, for a lot of the track, these coaster tracks are right next to each other. So that means that these ones in the middle will not actually be visible. So we'll only have to do this part. Alright, I will just copy and paste this arrangement wherever I can. Alright, by doing this, for most of the track, the footers have now been placed. I will quickly go by all these tiles. I'm holding control now, selecting the surface, and I'm going to move it down, and then these footers will stay underground and they don't glitch. So I actually have a hotkey set for moving the moving stuff to below in the tile inspector order. So for me that's Control D. So I can just go by here and do this really quickly for all these tiles. And when we have done this, for most of the coaster, the footers have already been done. And when there's also other objects on the same tile, for example like this tree here, you may actually have to move these prison wall corners to the complete top. So this tree is now on top. I move it down, and now maybe difficult to see, but yeah. If the tree is on top, you can see this prison wall corner over here. It actually clips through the ground, and when I move the tree down, it no longer clips. So yeah, if you cannot seem to get it right, just play a bit with the order of these elements, and you should usually be able to find a way to make the prison wall corner not clip. And if you cannot seem to get it right, a well-placed tree usually hides your problems. Alright, that's 90% of the track done. Now there's just a few tricky spots remaining. There's some spots like this where we have some height elevation. So we'll have to place it manually here. It's not easy to copy and paste. We have some of these diagonal spots. And at the end we have this turnaround where we also have to do some stuff manually. Now, if you don't feel like doing it, of course you can always just put some trees in front. I often do that in some tricky areas when I don't really feel like doing the supports there. Now, if you do want to do supports, usually a good first step is to just place some of these wooden post fences. Yeah, try to put the supports on spots where the train doesn't travel over them, so they don't glitch. So here I put it on this tile. The track is over here, so if I put the footer on this tile, the coaster train should not travel over it. Now here in the middle, just going to place some foliage. That will save me some work. Right here we have the part where there's some elevation change. So I'm just going to put some of these wooden post fences here on the hill. I'll raise them up by one, like so. That'll make the original support disappear. And I just place some of these prison wall corners over here. And I think now it does look pretty connected. And I'll do the same on this side. Alright, I've now done all the footers for this coaster. Now it's always good to go over your coaster a few times, double check if you did everything. Usually you'll find a spot or two that you forgot, like over here. But for now I think everything mostly looks good. I see I forgot some spots here on the inside. Let me quickly do those. Now again, if you find some spots that are just too tricky to do, just put a tree in front, and that will usually make your problems go away. Alright, with that I think we've covered most of the coaster. Now I'm going to do a little bit of ground texturing under the coaster, because when you place a big structure like this under the structure, the grass will not grow very well. So I'll just put some dirt and maybe some grassy dirt, and that'll usually look much nicer. Now I'll just start with a layer of dirt, but later I'll try to blend it a little bit with the grassy dirt. Alright, I think with that we have created a beautiful wooden roller coaster. Now usually when I build one of these, the part that takes the most time is doing the footers for the coaster. But the Scenery Manager plugin at least makes it manageable, at least for the straight parts where you can just copy and paste. And for the trickier parts you can usually do a bit manually. And finally, if you don't feel like doing a part, just place a tree in front, and that will help you do those sections as well. Alright, and that should be it. So let's quickly zoom out and see how it looks. I think that's a really cool addition to the park. And yeah, I like how much area it covers. Okay, here's a little other trick that I want to show you. So if we have an entertainer, well, I'll keep the Peep Editor plugin open. And then we'll select this entertainer. I think I'll give him a sheriff costume. Doesn't really matter. So now we have this entertainer here selected. And now we'll drop him in the fountain here. And we'll pause him in place. So now we have a guest that's swimming in the fountain. Let's put him a little bit more to the middle. So I think this is a great trick if you want an entertainer stuck in the water somewhere. Now, I think that's also immediately a good moment to name another entertainer after one of my patrons. So this will be Gus with 5 S's. Hey, thanks a lot, Gus, for supporting me on Patreon. I really appreciate it. And if you also want to support me on Patreon, you can find a link in the video description. Alright, that's going to be all the building I'm going to do for this episode. If you learned something or if you enjoyed the video, please hit that like button. It would really help out my channel and it takes only 2 seconds to do. I think it will be fun to end this video with a ride on this new wooden roller coaster. Alright, hope you enjoyed the video and I'll see you again in the next one. See you later.